Hi, my name is Harrison Taylor. This is my EDL 856 School Community Relations case study. Okay, so some things with this case study. It was all about an administrator who has to deal with a parent-teacher association, and the president of the association comes to him with concerns that they're not very involved, and the principal, kind of feels blindsided by this, and then the president of this PTA has a lot of things that they want to take place that they feel like aren't, and so they would be more involved. So some really negative feedback from this local PTA. They because of this, they have this meeting, and then they want the school to have back to school meetings where teachers will present subjects like multiple times a week, and then the PTA also wants to form these committees that are on discipline, teacher performance, curriculum, total school evaluation, and then they want to observe in the school, collect data, and issue policy statements for change that they feel is needed. So these occur since the principal's been at this school, and specifically the PTA meetings, conferences, and specifically a meeting that they had with the principal. So people that may be involved, and the parties know what they'd have to say with it. Obviously, this interaction is pretty much just the principal and the PTA, but a lot more factors in there. So the principal, the principal has concerns about the procedures of the building being disrupted if he just follows the PTA's plan. He's worried about possible legality of having parents observing and collecting data, and the perception of the community as a whole, with concerns arising. So the PTA and just parents in general, kind of interchangeably, they have a concern over their lack of involvement in the school, possible defensiveness, and with the principal's decision. And then the students would be affected by any change made by the principal and the PTA for sure. And then teachers, they would definitely be concerned with their negative perception coming from the PTA. And then, I think teachers would be concerned with parents possibly being in their classrooms regularly and questioning their teaching methods. So legal and ethical issues. Has anybody been harmed? The PTA definitely feels that they have been excluded and not included in the educational process, so they feel harmed by this, and they feel that their students aren't getting the best education because of this. Does this action or situation contravene existing law? From what I found in Kansas Department of Education, there's no law against this. I think having teachers in class or parents in classroom regularly, could cause some ethical issues, but I didn't see any legal issues. And then there's no breach of contract. The PTA definitely feels that they haven't been included, but no discriminatory or constitutes or no harassment. I do think that KSDE has some guidance that they think that there should be two-way communication and that parents should be involved, but it's fairly vague. Okay, and then in a sentence, the PTA feels that they have not been included in the educational process of their children, and they have proposed a plan based on this lack of inclusion. That's the case study as a whole. Synthesizing the facts. So the people involved, the administrator, teachers, parents, and students. Administrator is the primary leader for sure in this situation at the school. He has worked to include the PTA, but it's been more periphery and activities that have association with students, and the PTA obviously hasn't felt like this has been enough for them. The teacher, there's not very much included in the case study with this in regards to teachers, other than the parents, really aren't very happy with the educational process as a whole, and teachers included in that. And then the parents, they feel that they're not very involved at the school, and they question the effectiveness overall. And then also they want an increase in the power and operation of the school and just in the educational process. And then students are obviously very affected, but the case study doesn't go into very much information on students. Obviously, there's definitely a high level of concern from the community in this case study. Doesn't have a lot about the community as a whole. Obviously, a lot of parent involvement, so that definitely has to do with the community as a whole, but not a lot of detail there. And then also, the parents are concerned with the curriculum that's taking place, and they feel like they've been confused when teachers have presented anything in the past, and so they, need to be more on the same page for sure. Okay, and then prioritize the information. Okay, this situation could definitely be damaging because right now there's rift between the school and the parents. The relationship definitely needs to be mended so that this can, be better for the educational organization as a whole. And then the principal, whatever he decides to do will be very important because the parents need to feel like, they're being heard. He needs to make sure he's not, causing issues in the school and doing what's best for the school as well. The individuals, a lot of different individuals have stake, especially if there be some major changes, but a few would be administrators, teachers, parents, students, and the community as a whole. I think that a stakeholder that really hasn't been consulted would be maybe district level administration. They can make sure that the policy, that they agree with the policy, and that would, any major changes would be a good idea to keep them in the loop with this, especially as it deals with the community. And then, I think it would be helpful for the administrator in this situation to reach out to other parents to see their perspective, and then also reach out to parent or teachers to see, what their interactions have been like with parents. It could be a lot different. Could definitely get some really good information on that. And I think as a building leader, there wasn't as much information as I would like to make, and I would want to make this as kind of a joint decision for sure. And then, definitely could add in some steps to include parents early before making any, major decisions. There would be some simple steps to do that would help the parents feel more included. So some possible things I could do in this situation, just some ideas. It could be possible just do nothing at all, to not make any changes. Parents are already involved in some ways with what they're already doing. There's back to school night, some other things that the principal mentioned. I think there was some fundraising things. But I think that the parents would really scoff at this and feel like they're not being listened to at all. So I don't think that would be a great idea. Also, you could accept all of the president's terms as he laid them out, but I think that would be really one-sided. And then I think the teachers would kind of feel attacked by that, and maybe the school as a whole. And I think, it's just, I thought he was asking for too much, really. And so it would be too much to just accept everything that the PTA threw out. So some strategies that could be used, you could have a few teachers present, at the normal back to school night instead of having in additions, but just having, more in depth what's going on in class. Maybe that would appease some parents. I think establishing a site council with parents, teachers, administrators, counselors, a lot of different stakeholders to help make some decisions and inform would be a great idea. And then some other ideas would be to increase teacher-led 2-way communication. I think the parents would feel better if they were, having more back and forth with the teachers, understanding what's going on, maybe contributing. Those would be great things. And then also another thing the administrator could do was to, set up more times to meet with the PTA, understand their causes for concern, create some 2-way dialogue to make some possible changes. Okay, each of these options definitely have some pros and cons to it. So, for example, having the traditional back to school night, but just going in more depth. I think pros, it might give parents more insight into the content the students are receiving. Cons are teachers may feel defensive when asked to do this, which it may be a necessary thing, but just something to consider. And then also the parents might feel like this isn't enough to accomplish what they want. I think a site council would be a great idea. Some pros for that would be a lot of different stakeholders would be involved. Be kind of a team atmosphere, allowed to make joint decisions. And keep everybody informed and in the loop, hopefully, and be able to encounter other problems and make decisions based off those. A con to that it wasn't suggested by the PTA specifically, so they might not like that. Another one would be to encourage teacher-led two-way communication. Positives, this probably should happen either way, but would bring out parent issues earlier, increase the engagement, hopefully increase student achievement. Cons of this is it would put more work on the teachers, but I think this would probably be one of the necessary steps. And then offer to meet with the PTA more frequently. Pros would there be more relationships for the administrator to build with the PTA, and the PTA would probably feel like their voices were heard more. May take a lot of time. Cons might take a lot of time for this to happen, and it may be thought of as more neutral as a PTA, not doing enough. So I thought that the best option would be to use the creation of the site council. This would allow a lot of different people to hear concerns, give possible options for solutions, and everyone to feel like they're a part of the ultimate decision that is made, hopefully. I think that all the major stakeholders really have been consulted or will be in this decision. You'll have parents, teachers, administrators, counselors. You can pull in other community members, so it kind of allows for some flexibility there, which I think would be positive. And I feel like this would be created because you would be able to pull other people, use leadership to bring people together, and that would help with further solutions, and also to create trust. Seems like that in this case study, there's definitely a trust issue with parents to the school, and that would be a way to remedy this. Okay, so as far as implementing the decision, it would take a lot of steps and would need to be followed through with. So obviously, we want to create the site council with all the people mentioned earlier. I think you want to ask for people with interest, and then choose people from that interest group, and then create regular times to meet, create an agenda, those types of things. I think these groups would appreciate being included, all together. Team atmosphere would be great, and I think the culture, building would be really good. And people may not agree, but I think it'd be worth it to get everybody together, working together. Okay, so people that would need to know about the decisions, obviously the school staff would need to know any decision that the site council made, or suggestions and changes. And then also, I think that as a school, we'd want to be transparent, so we'd want to communicate with that to parents and make it really an open known as to changes that we're making. Okay. In this situation, the entire group is involved. We want it really to be a team manner. Obviously, the PTA and just the group in general, you want to know that the administration kind of has the final say on decisions in the school in general, but that parties will be listened to and try to do the best for the students for sure. And then what to do if it doesn't work. If no one wants to do the site council, can't get the site council put together, which I think would be able to be fairly doable. But I think I would want to meet with the PTA, come up with some compromises, use some of the strategies that I mentioned before, and kind of go back to some of their list and increase their engagement and involvement. So this case study definitely goes, right along with Standard 5, especially 5.2. I think, you want to work together with these parents, with the stakeholders to build relationships and use that to improve the school. I think that we would see, problems that we didn't even think about that are able to be solved through this process. And, I think it would be really best for the students, for all these groups to work together. And I think the site council would help us to achieve that.